Have you ever walked into someone's home and felt something you couldn't quite name? Not the smell of cleaner, not the tidiness, exactly. Something quieter than that. The counters are bare. The bed is made at 11 in the morning on a Tuesday when nobody is coming over and nobody will know. And a small voice in you asks, how does a person live like this? Most people answer that question with one word: discipline. They decide this person simply wants it more, tries harder, was issued an engine you never got. That answer is wrong. Here's what I've discovered. The spotless house is almost never about cleaning. Society calls it discipline or calls it a little bit obsessive, depending on how much it likes you that day. It is neither of those. What you are looking at is someone who quietly became a certain kind of person years ago. Someone who found one small square of the world that still answers back when they act on it. Let's talk about what is actually happening. Start with a moment nobody sees. It's 10:40 at night. Your friends have just left, and you are already carrying glasses to the sink before the front door has finished closing. Nobody asked you to. You are not even angry about it. Your hands just started. The next day someone says, "I wish I had your discipline." And you smile, because what else do you say? But inside, the word lands strangely. Discipline sounds like a fist, like teeth gritted at 5 in the morning. That is not what this feels like. This feels closer to the opposite. It feels like you cannot sit down until the counter is clear, and once it is clear, your shoulders come down about an inch. Here is what the research on habits keeps finding. Wendy Wood is a psychology professor at the University of Southern California. She has spent decades on one question: how much of daily life do you actually decide in the moment? Far less than you think. A large share of what you do every day is repeated behavior. It happens in the same place, triggered by the same cue, with almost no deliberation attached. You are not winning a battle every night. There is no battle. The decision was made years ago, and it stopped asking for your opinion. There's more. Research on self-control by Wilhelm Hoffman and his colleagues found something that embarrassed a lot of self-help books. The people who score highest on self-control are not the people gritting through the strongest temptations. They report fewer temptations in the first place. They have arranged their lives so the hard choice rarely shows up. Which means the person with the spotless house is not stronger than you. They are just standing somewhere the fight doesn't happen. And if that person is you, this might be the first time anyone has said it plainly. The thing you get complimented for is not effort. It's architecture. But here's where it gets interesting. Habits explain how the counter gets wiped. They don't explain why it feels personal when it isn't. Think about the last time you stayed in a hotel. Someone is paid to come in and fix the room, and you made the bed anyway, didn't you? Pulled the sheet flat, squared the pillows, for an audience of nobody, in a city you were leaving in 6 hours. That is not a habit doing that. That is identity. Habits are about the room. Identity is about you, and it follows you into rooms you will never see again. There is an old idea in psychology called self-perception theory from the social psychologist Daryl Bem. The short version is that you do not only act out of who you believe you are, you also work backwards. You watch your own behavior, like a stranger would, and you draw conclusions from the evidence. So every wiped counter is a small piece of evidence. Every made bed is testimony. Slowly, without any ceremony, a case gets built, and the verdict is, this is who I am. And once that verdict is in, leaving the dishes stops feeling like resting. It starts feeling like wearing someone else's coat, slightly wrong at the shoulders. That itch you get in a messy room is not moral judgment. It is the quiet discomfort of a person who has stepped outside their own outline. That is why willpower language misses it completely. You are not obeying a rule. You are being consistent with a self. And this is where it gets complicated, because identity explains the everyday version. It does not explain the midnight version. You know the one. Something happened that day. A phone call that went badly. A diagnosis in the family. A message from someone that you read 4 times and still don't understand. And at 11 at night, with nothing solved and nothing in your power, you found yourself pulling everything out of the pantry, lining the cans up by height. Why that? Why then? In the 1960s, the psychologist Julian Rotter described something he called locus of control. Some people carry the sense that outcomes come from what they do. Others carry the sense that outcomes come from luck, from other people, from forces above them. Most of us live somewhere in the middle, and that sense moves depending on how the week is going. Here is the part that matters for you. Research on what psychologists call compensatory control, much of it led by Aaron Kay, points at something simple. When personal control feels threatened, people reach harder for order and structure wherever they can find it. Not because order fixes the threat, because order proves the world still responds. And a counter responds. That is the whole secret. You cannot make someone love you back. You cannot unsay what your father said in the kitchen in 1998. You cannot make the test results come back different, but you can put your hand on a surface and wipe, and the surface will be clean. Cause, then effect, every single time, with no negotiation and no delay. That is your small square of solved world. And on the worst nights, you go stand in. Notice that you almost never clean the thing that is actually bothering you. You clean whatever is nearest and most finishable. The pantry, the shower door, a drawer nobody has opened since spring. The size of the job has nothing to do with the size of the feeling. What you are after is the ending, and small jobs end. For some people, this started early. Maybe the mood of your house changed without warning. Maybe you learned to read the sound of a car door for what kind of evening was coming. Then, a clean room was not a chore. It was the one variable you were allowed to hold. Not everyone with a spotless house has that story. Some of you simply grew up where order was how care got expressed, and you inherited the language. Both are real. Neither is a defect. But there is a version of this that turns on you, and it deserves to be said plainly. There are two kinds of spotless. The first kind is for you. The room is quiet because you like being in it, and when a bowl sits in the sink overnight, the world does not end. You notice it, you feel a small pull, and you go to bed anyway. The second kind is for inspection. The room is clean because somewhere in you there is a judge who might arrive at any moment, and you have never been sure when. That version doesn't stop when the house is done. It just moves to your inbox, your body, your calendar, the way you say goodbye at parties. Do you know which one you're running? Watch for the tell. Cleaning is one of the fastest ways to change how you feel, and psychologists have a name for using action to shift emotional state. It is genuinely useful. It becomes a hiding place when the sink is the only thing that ever gets emptied, when the counter is spotless and the conversation you needed to have is now 3 weeks old, when the floors are done and you still haven't sat down with the thing that made you start scrubbing. Order can be care. Order can also be a very well-lit way of not looking. And on the other side of that same coin, quietly, there is something almost nobody gives you credit for. Your environment is not just where you live. It is something your nervous system keeps reading all day. Walk into a room where nothing is asking for you, and the background noise in your head drops. You built that room. Nobody praised you for it, because the whole point of good design is that it disappears. You come home to a place that is not adding to the pile. Before the day has even started, you have already kept one promise to yourself, and you kept it before anyone was awake to see it. So let me say the thing I actually came here to say. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not obsessive. You are also not more disciplined than the people around you. You can stop carrying that compliment like a weight you have to keep earning. What you are is someone who became a certain person through 10,000 quiet repetitions. Someone who found the one place on earth where your effort still shows up in the world within 30 seconds. That is not a small thing. In a life where almost nothing gives you a clean result, you built one square that does. But hear the rest of it. The square is supposed to hold you. You are not supposed to hold the square. It is doing its job when you can walk past a full sink on a bad night, leave it there, and still feel like yourself in the morning. That is the difference between a home you keep and a test you take every day. The identity is yours when you are allowed to break it once and stay who you are. Clean because the quiet is good. Not because you are afraid of what the mess would say about you. If any part of this felt like someone reading your kitchen at midnight, I'd like to know which part. Leave a comment and tell me what your square is. The counter, the desk, the made bed, the one place you go when the rest of the day refuses to make sense, and what it gives you when you get there. I read those. And tonight, if the dishes stay in the sink, let them stay. The room will still be yours in the morning. So will you. Subscribe to keep decoding yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.